Dad, you're a failure. You've done nothing with your life. Emily's voice sliced through the dining room, her sneer sharp as a blade. Linda laughed, cold and cutting, clutching her wine glass. He's right, you know. Their words stung, but I smiled, my fingers brushing the phone in my pocket. I pulled it out, tapped the screen, and held up a screenshot. Their faces froze, mouths open, eyes wide. The room went silent, save for the clocks ticking. I stood, leaving them staring, and walked out. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The dining room smelled of overcooked steak and betrayal. Emily's fork clattered against her plate, her eyes blazing. You're nothing, Dad. A nobody who's embarrassed us for years. Her voice cracked, sharp with venom, as she shoved her chair back, the legs scraping the floor. Linda sipped her wine, her lips curling into a smirk. What did you expect, Emily? He's always been a disappointment. She tapped her manicured nail on the glass, the sound like a metronome of scorn. Their words hit like punches, but I sat still, my hands clenched under the table. I'd heard it before, their jabs about my failure as a freelancer, my quiet life in this creaking house. But tonight was different. Tonight, their cruelty felt final, like a door slamming shut. I stared at the crack in my plate, a jagged line splitting the ceramic. It reminded me of us, broken, held together by habit. You're just an old man rotting in that closet of an office, Emily spat, tossing her hair. Linda chuckled, her laughter cold as the wine she drank. I didn't answer. Not yet. My chest burned, but I kept my face blank. Years of swallowing their insults had taught me patience. I thought of the sacrifices, nights working late, paying for Emily's college, buying Linda's jewelry while she bragged to her golf club friends. All for this. You're a burden, Linda said, her voice low, almost bored. We barely scrape by because of you. That was it. The dam broke. I reached into my pocket, my fingers brushing the cracked screen of my old phone. It was heavy, not with weight but with truth. You think you know me, I said, my voice steady. They froze, startled by my tone. I tapped the screen, pulled up the screenshot, and held it out. The light from the phone cast shadows on their faces. Their reactions were instant. Emily's mouth fell open, her hand flying to her lips. Linda's glass slipped, shattering on the floor, wine pooling like blood. The room went quiet, the only sound the clock ticking on the wall. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Whatever they saw on that screen had done the talking for me. I stood, my chair creaking, and walked out. Their eyes followed me, wide with shock, but I didn't look back. My steps echoed in the hall, each one heavier than the last. I reached my office, a cramped room stuffed with old books and a wheezing computer. The door clicked shut behind me, locking out their voices. I sank into my chair, the phone still warm in my hand. My heart pounded, but not with fear. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I set the phone on the desk, its cracked screen catching the dim light. They didn't know what I'd been hiding, what I'd built in silence. But they would. Soon, they'd understand everything. The kitchen reeked of spilled wine and panic. Linda stood by the sink, her hands gripping the counter, her blonde hair falling loose from its perfect bun. What was that, Emily? She snapped, her voice tight. What did he show us? Emily paced, her phone clutched like a lifeline, her fingers swiping the screen. It's fake, she muttered. It has to be. He's bluffing, Mom. Dad? With that? No way. Her laugh was shrill, but her eyes darted to the hallway, where I'd disappeared. I sat in my office, the door locked, the silence thick. My phone lay on the desk, its cracked screen dark now. Their voices carried through the walls, sharp and frantic. He's playing us, Linda said, louder now. He's always been weak. This is just another pathetic trick. Her words stung, but I didn't flinch. I'd heard worse. My fingers tapped the desk, the wood worn smooth from years of restless nights. They thought they knew me. They thought I was nothing. A fist pounded on the door. Ed. Linda's voice was sugar-coated, but it dripped with venom. Open the door. We need to talk. I didn't move. Emily's voice joined in, high and jagged. You think you can scare us with some photoshopped garbage? I'll post this online, Dad. Everyone will know you're a liar. Her threat hung in the air, but it was empty. She wouldn't post anything. Not yet. Not until she knew what I had. I leaned back in my chair, the springs creaking. The office was a mess, books piled on shelves, a family photo turned face down on the desk. I hadn't looked at it in months. The memory of their laughter at dinner twisted in my gut, but I pushed it down. They wanted answers. They'd get them, but on my terms. Ed, don't be ridiculous, Linda called, her tone shifting to fake concern. Whatever that was, we can work it out. Her fist hit the door again, softer this time. I pictured her out there, her lips pursed, her eyes calculating. She'd always been good at playing the victim when it suited her. Emily muttered something, her voice too low to catch, but I heard the clack of her nails on her phone. Probably drafting a post she'd never send. You'll see, I said, my voice low but firm, loud enough to carry through the door. Your time's coming. Silence followed. I imagined their faces, Linda's eyes narrowing, Emily's mouth twitching. They didn't know what to do with me now. The man they'd mocked for years wasn't caving. Linda tried the knob, the door rattling in its frame. You can't hide forever, she hissed. Her footsteps retreated, sharp heels clicking on the hardwood. Emily lingered, I heard her breathing, quick and uneven. This isn't over, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Then she was gone, her steps fading. I picked up the phone, its weight grounding me. The screenshot was still there, waiting. I didn't need to look at it again. I knew what it meant. My gaze fell on the family photo, its frame coated in dust. For a moment, I saw us as we were, smiling, together, before the cracks spread. Then I blinked, and the memory was gone. They'd made their choice. Now I'd make mine. The office was dark, save for the flicker of my ancient computer screen. I sat alone, the silence heavy, broken only by the hum of the machine. My fingers brushed the edge of a USB drive, a cold wallet, small and unassuming, tucked in a drawer for years. It held everything. I leaned back, my mind slipping to 2011, when it all began. The memory hit sharp and clear. I was 48, hunched over a clunky monitor in a cramped office that smelled of stale coffee and paper. The screen glowed with a forum post about Bitcoin, a new, risky idea. The future, some guy called it. I scrolled, my heart racing. I'd always been cautious, but something about it felt right. Linda's voice echoed from the past, shrill through the phone. You're wasting money again, Ed. We need that for Emily's school. I ignored her, my fingers flying across the keyboard. $590 for 59 coins. I hit buy and smiled, a spark of hope in my chest. Back then, I thought I was building something for us. For Emily's future, for Linda's dreams. I worked late, fixed networks, paid bills. Emily, just 13, barely noticed me. Dad, whatever, she'd say, eyes glued to her phone. Linda wanted more, always more. Karen's husband bought her a diamond, she'd complain, her voice sharp as a knife. I kept quiet, my secret tucked away. The coins sat in the cold wallet, forgotten as life ground on. Now, in 2025, I pulled the USB drive from the drawer. Its plastic was scratched, but it felt alive in my hand. My office was a tomb, dusty shelves, a family photo I couldn't bear to face. The computer wheezed as I plugged in the drive. My hands shook, not from fear but from certainty. I typed the password, each keystroke deliberate. The screen blinked, then loaded. There it was, 59 BTC. I did the math in my head. At today's price, nearly $6 million. I exhaled, the number sinking in. 6 million. More than enough to change everything. My eyes stung, not with joy but with rage. I'd given them everything, years. Money, my pride, and they'd spit it back. Emily's voice at dinner, calling me a failure. Linda's laugh, cold and cruel. They didn't deserve this. Not anymore. I leaned forward, the chair creaking. The screen's glow lit my face, casting shadows on the walls. I remembered the nights I'd spent learning, risking, hoping. For them. And they'd thrown it away. You'll see, I whispered, my voice steady. The wallet was real. The money was mine. And I knew exactly what to do with it. I unplugged the drive and slid it back into the drawer, its weight a promise. The computer powered down, the hum fading to silence. My phone sat on the desk, its cracked screen catching the light. I picked it up, my thumb hovering over a number. An attorney I'd found weeks ago, just in case. My finger pressed, call. The line rang once, twice. A voice answered, calm and professional. Mr. Cunningham. How can I help? I smiled, my eyes fixed on the phone. We need to talk, I said. The attorney's office smelled of leather and ambition. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, glinting off a glass desk piled with papers. I sat across from Mr. Harlow, a man with a crisp suit and sharper eyes. My pen hovered over the contract, steady as my pulse. Selling 5 coins will net you $500,000, he said, his voice clipped. What's the next step? I signed my name, the ink flowing smooth. Keep it quiet, I replied. That's all for now. He nodded, sliding the papers into a folder. The deal was done. I left the office, my steps light on the polished floor. Outside, Fairfield buzzed, cars hummed, leaves rustled in the June breeze. My phone stayed silent in my pocket, its cracked screen hiding the truth. 5 Bitcoins sold. $500,000, and Linda and Emily had no idea. The thought made my chest hum, not with pride but with purpose. They'd mocked me for years, called me a failure. Soon, they'd see. Back home, Linda waited in the hallway, her arms crossed. Her blonde hair was pinned tight, but a strand hung loose, betraying her nerves. Where were you? She asked, her voice honeyed but sharp, like a blade dipped in sugar. Her bracelet jangled as she tapped her phone. I tossed my keys onto the table, the clink loud in the quiet house. Out, I said, brushing past her. The air smelled of furniture polish and tension. She followed, her heels clicking. Don't play games, Ed. I found that lawyer's card in your drawer. Her eyes narrowed, searching my face. I kept my expression blank, but inside, I smiled. She'd been snooping, just as I'd expected. You're up to something, she hissed, stepping closer. What is it? I shrugged, my silence a wall. You'll find out soon enough, I said, my tone calm, almost bored. Her lips pursed, her fingers twitching around her phone. I headed to the kitchen, pouring a glass of water. Linda lingered in the doorway, her shadow stretching across the linoleum. You've never given me what I deserve, she said, her voice low, bitter. All those years, scraping by while my friends lived better. I sipped the water, letting her words slide off me. She wanted wealth, status, the life she'd envied at the golf club. She'd never worked for it, but she blamed me. Always me. I set the glass down, the clink sharp. Things are about to change, I said, meeting her gaze. Her eyes widened, just for a second, before she masked it with a scoff. You change anything? She laughed, but it was brittle, like glass about to crack. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The seeds were planted. Later, I took a walk through the neighborhood, the dusk settling over manicured lawns. Linda's car crept along a block behind, her headlights dim. She thought she was clever, tailing me like a detective in a bad movie. I kept my pace steady, my hands in my pockets. Let her follow. Let her wonder. She'd find nothing but questions. I stopped at the park, the air cool against my face. My phone buzzed once, a confirmation from Harlow. The funds were in my account. I pulled it out, dialed a number, and kept my voice low. It's just the start, I said. Behind me, Linda's car idled, her silhouette stiff in the driver's seat. She was watching, but I was already miles ahead. The dining room was a battlefield. Cold coffee sat in mugs, the air thick with accusation. Linda stood at the head of the table, her fist slamming down, rattling the spoons. You're selfish, Ed, she shouted, her voice a whip. Hiding things, sneaking around, what are you doing to us? Emily slouched in her chair, her phone glowing, her fingers flying across the screen. You're ruining everything, Dad, she snapped, her eyes flashing. Everyone's gonna know what a loser you are. Her words cut, but I sat still, my hands gripping the chair's edge. I'd walked into this ambush after my walk, Linda's car trailing me home. Now they were unloading, their voices rising like a storm. You've always held us back, Linda said, her bracelet clinking as she pointed. Now you're playing some game. I won't stand for it. Her face was flushed, her eyes desperate. Emily smirked, tapping her phone. Check this, she said, her voice dripping with scorn. She held up the screen, a post she'd just published. My dad's a washed-up nobody, it read, with a sad face emoji. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face blank. You think that hurts me? I said, my voice low, steady. Emily's smirk faltered. Linda stepped closer, her heels loud on the hardwood. I'm done, Ed. I'll file for divorce. You'll get nothing. Her threat hung heavy, but I didn't flinch. I'd heard her bluffs before. She wanted control, not freedom. Emily scrolled her phone, muttering, why's no one liking this? Her confidence cracked, her need for validation showing through. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness matching the mood. Their words were loud, but they were flailing, grasping at shadows. They didn't know about the bitcoins, the $500,000 sitting in my account. They didn't know I was building something bigger than their insults. Do what you want, I said, setting the mug down. It won't change a thing. Linda's eyes blazed, her jaw tight. You're impossible, she hissed, storming out, the door slamming behind her. Emily stayed, her fingers hovering over her phone. You're pathetic, she said, but her voice trembled. She wanted a reaction, a fight. I gave her nothing. I stood, the chair scraping, and looked at her. You're digging your own hole, I said. Her eyes widened, but she didn't answer. I walked out, their shouts echoing in my head, each one fueling my resolve. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone, its cracked screen catching the dim light. Their accusations were noise, nothing more. I'd spent years absorbing their scorn, but now I was moving, and they couldn't stop me. I dialed my broker, keeping my voice low. Time to start, I said, my eyes on the closed dining room door. Emily's post was still open on her phone, glowing like a weak spark. Let her post. Let them scream. I was already beyond their reach. The broker's office buzzed with quiet energy, coffee scented the air, screens flickered with stock charts. I sat across from Ms. Carter, her glasses perched low as she typed. Selling 5 bitcoins, buying shares in next-gen tech, she said, her voice brisk. Risky, but done. I nodded, my fingers tapping the armrest. Make it quick, I said. And keep it off the radar. She raised an eyebrow but complied, her mouse clicking. $500,000 shifted, silent as a shadow. My plan was in motion. Back home, I locked myself in my office, the computers hummed my only company. The screen glowed as I opened an anonymous forum, my fingers steady on the keys. NextGen's about to skyrocket, I typed. Insider tip, buy now. I hit send, the post vanishing into the digital void. A smile tugged at my lips. Linda's friend Susan had bragged about NextGen at the golf club, and Linda had listened, her eyes hungry. She'd take the bait. They all would. Later, I stood at a charity gala, the room alive with clinking glasses and soft laughter. White tablecloths gleamed, flowers perfumed the air. I'd donated $50,000 to a local shelter, and now people shook my hand, their smiles warm. Mr. Cunningham, you're a blessing, a woman said, handing me a thank you letter. I nodded, the paper crisp in my hand. For years, I'd been invisible. Now, eyes followed me, respectful. It felt good. But it wasn't the goal. My phone stayed in my pocket, silent but heavy. I'd checked it earlier, my forum post was gaining traction, likes piling up. Linda was at home, probably scrolling, her greed pulling her in. I pictured her, eyes glued to her screen, whispering to Susan about the next big thing. She'd invest everything, blind to the trap. The thought steadied me, like a compass pointing true. At the gala, a man clapped my shoulder. Heard you're making waves, Ed, he said. I smiled, vague. Just helping out, I replied. The letter in my hand felt like a shield, proof of who I could be. Linda and Emily saw a failure. These people saw a giver. Soon, they'd all see the truth. I left the event, the night air cool against my face. At home, Linda sat in the living room, her phone glowing. Susan says NextGen's a goldmine, she said, her voice eager, not looking up. I'm putting everything in. Her fingers swiped, sealing her choice. I paused, my hand on the stair rail. Good luck, I said, my tone flat. Her eyes flicked to me, suspicious, but I was already moving. In my office, I shut the door, the lock clicking. The computer screen waited, dark but ready. Linda's words echoed, everything, she'd said. Everything. My smile grew, cold and sure. I sat down, my fingers brushing the phone. The next step was close, and I was ready. The dining room was a mess, coffee mugs scattered, a napkin crumpled on the floor. Linda stood by the table, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice shrill. What do you mean, it crashed? I lost 40,000. She spun, her eyes wild, mascara streaking her cheeks. Emily hovered near the doorway, biting her nail, her phone dark in her hand. I sat at the table, stirring sugar into my coffee, the spoon clinking softly. Their panic was a symphony, and I was the conductor. Linda slammed her phone onto the couch, the thud muffled by cushions. You did this, Ed, she screamed, pointing a trembling finger. Her hair was a tangled halo, her bracelet jangling. You sabotaged me. I raised an eyebrow, my face calm. Did I? I said, my voice low, almost amused. Her accusation had no teeth, no proof. I'd worked through my broker, clean and untraceable. NextGen stock had plummeted, just as I'd planned. Emily shifted, her eyes darting between us. Mom, maybe it's not him, she said, her voice small. Linda whirled on her. Don't defend him. He's ruined us. Emily flinched, her fingers tightening around her phone. She looked lost, her confidence gone. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness sharp. Linda's debts, credit cards, loans, had been her noose. She'd tied it herself, chasing Susan's promises of wealth. You chose where to put your money, I said, setting my mug down. Linda's face twisted, her breath hitching. You knew, she spat. You knew it would fail. I shrugged, my silence a blade. She stormed closer, her heels clicking. I'll prove it, Ed. I'll drag you down with me. Her threat was empty, but her eyes burned. Emily stayed quiet, her gaze fixed on the floor. A crack was forming between them, and I felt it widen. I stood, the chair scraping. Their eyes followed me, Linda's furious, Emily's uncertain. I'm not your problem, I said, my voice steady. You are. Linda's mouth opened, but no words came. I walked out, their silence heavy behind me. In the hallway, I grabbed my coat, the letter of thanks from the charity still in my pocket. Its weight grounded me, a reminder of who I was becoming. Outside, I climbed into my car, the engine humming to life. Linda's screams faded as I drove, the letter on the passenger seat catching the streetlights. The town was quiet, Fairfield's lawns neat under the dusk. I'd pushed the first domino, and it felt right. My phone stayed silent, but I didn't need it now. The next move was waiting, and I was ready. The charity event glowed with warmth, white tablecloths, soft lanterns, the clink of glasses. I stood on a small stage, a framed letter of thanks in my hands. Edward Cunningham's generosity has changed lives, the host said, his voice booming. The crowd clapped, their faces bright with admiration. I nodded, my smile modest, but inside, I burned with quiet triumph. For years, I'd been invisible. Now, Fairfield saw me. I stepped down, shaking hands, the letter tucked under my arm. A woman in a blue dress squeezed my hand. You're a hero, Ed, she said. I murmured thanks, my eyes scanning the room. The air smelled of roses and possibility. My donation, $50,000 to the shelter, had made waves, and the ripples were reaching Linda and Emily. Across town, Linda sat in a golf club, her cocktail glass trembling. The green stretched outside, the grass sharp under the sun, but the air inside was cold. Her friend Susan leaned over, her voice low. You're Ed. The one who gave all that money. Why didn't you say? Linda's smile froze, her fingers tightening on the glass. It's complicated, she said, her voice thin. Another woman whispered, he's a saint. And you're so quiet about it. The word stung, and Linda's face flushed. Her status, her armor, was cracking. Emily wasn't faring better. At home, she sat on her bed, her phone glowing with comments. How can you trash your dad? One read. He's helping people, and you're whining, another said. Her post about me, calling me a failure, had backfired. She swiped, her hands shaking, and deleted it, but the damage was done. Her followers dropped, her inbox filled with criticism. I didn't mean it, she whispered, but no one cared. Her world, built on likes, was crumbling. I left the event, the night air cool against my face. The sunset painted the sky orange, a promise of something new. I'd spent years in their shadow, absorbing their scorn. Now, they were the ones fading. Linda's friends were pulling away, their invitations drying up. Emily's online empire was shrinking, her confidence with it. I felt no pity. They'd built their cages, and I'd handed them the keys. I drove home, the letter on the seat beside me. Its words, gratitude, respect, were a shield against their venom. My phone buzzed, a message from the mayor's office, an invite to a council event. My name was spreading, my actions speaking louder than their lies. I parked, the house dark except for a single light. As I stepped out, a knock came at the door, sharp and desperate. I paused, my hand on the keys, and listened. The dining room smelled of damp carpet and defeat. Linda stood before me, her hands clasped, her eyes red. Ed, Please, she said, her voice breaking. We're sorry. We were wrong. Emily lingered behind, tears streaking her face, her phone silent for once. Dad, I didn't mean it, she whispered, her voice raw. Their apologies were a performance, hollow as the cracked walls around us. I stood by the table, my arms crossed, unmoved. Linda stepped closer, grabbing my hand. Her nails dug in, desperate. We're broke, Ed. The club shut me out. We need you. Her words were syrupy, but her eyes flickered with calculation. Emily nodded, wiping her nose. My friends won't talk to me, she said, her voice small. I deleted the post. I swear. I pulled my hand free, the motion sharp. Their tears didn't touch me. I'd heard their lies before. You made your choices, I said, my voice cold as stone. Linda's face crumpled, but her jaw tightened. You can't abandon us, she said, her tone shifting, accusatory. Emily looked down, her shoulders shaking. I saw her fear, real, maybe, but it changed nothing. They'd mocked me, belittled me, for years. Now, they wanted salvation. I wasn't their savior. I turned, walking out, their pleas fading. Later, I sat in a realtor's office, the air crisp with fresh paint. A panoramic window framed Fairfield's skyline, and keys gleamed on the desk. The house is yours, the realtor said, sliding the papers over. I signed, my hand steady, the pen scratched loud in the quiet. A new home, clean and mine, waited. No echoes of their voices, no ghosts of their scorn. The keys were cool in my hand, their weight a promise. I'd sold more bitcoins, enough to start fresh. Linda and Emily could keep the old house, its creaks and cracks a mirror of their lives. I felt no guilt. Everyone gets what they earn, I said, my voice low, almost to myself. The realtor smiled, unaware of the war I'd fought. She handed me the keys, their jingle bright. I drove to the new house, its windows dark but welcoming. I parked, staring at the clean lines, the empty rooms waiting for a life I'd build alone. My phone buzzed, a message from the city council. They wanted me at an event, a speaker for their fundraiser. My name carried weight now, a currency Linda and Emily could never touch. I stepped out, the keys in my hand, when the phone rang again. I answered, my voice calm. I'll be there, I said. The city hall smelled of polished wood and pride. I stood at the podium, the weight of a brass medal cool in my hands. Edward Cunningham's $1 million donation will transform our community, the mayor said, his voice echoing. The crowd erupted, their applause a wave. I nodded, my face humble, but inside, I soared. Linda and Emily sat in the back, their faces pale, their eyes fixed on me. No one looked at them. They were ghosts in my moment. I scanned the room, wooden beams, flickering chandeliers, the scent of coffee lingering. Linda clutched her purse, her knuckles white. Emily hunched low, her phone hidden in her lap. I saw Susan, Linda's golf club friend, turn away when Linda leaned to whisper. The rejection was sharp, a blade in Linda's pride. Emily's shoulders shook, her usual bravado gone. I felt no pity. They'd built this cage. Thank you, I said, my voice steady. This is for Fairfield. The crowd cheered again, their faces warm, open. For years, I'd been the quiet man in the corner. Now, I was their hero. The medal gleamed, a symbol of everything I'd earned. Linda's lips moved, a silent mutter, it's a lie, but no one cared. Emily's eyes darted, seeking an escape that wasn't there. Later, I packed the last box in the old house. The dining room was a wreck, cracked walls, a dusty table, the air heavy with neglect. My footsteps echoed as I carried boxes to the car. Linda and Emily could keep this place, its creaks a mirror of their lives. I didn't look back. The keys to my new house jangled in my pocket, their sound bright, like a bell. I drove to the new place, its windows catching the dusk. The air inside was clean, sharp with fresh paint. I set the metal on a bare shelf, its shine soft in the empty room. The silence was mine, not theirs. No arguments, no scorn. Just space to breathe. I walked through the house, my steps light on the hardwood. This was freedom. Outside, Fairfield settled into evening, lawns glowing under streetlights. My phone stayed quiet, but the mayor's words rang in my head, $1 million, a legacy. Linda and Emily had lost more than money. Their status, their allies, were gone. I'd taken nothing from them they hadn't thrown away first. I sat at the kitchen counter, the keys beside me, their edges catching the light. The house was still, but alive with possibility. Then, a knock came at the door, sharp, insistent. I stood, my hand brushing my phone. My fingers paused over the screen, ready. The new house was quiet, its minimalist living room bathed in evening light. The knock came again, louder, desperate. I opened the door, and there they were, Linda, her face streaked with mascara, and Emily, eyes red, clutching her arms. "Ed, please," Linda said, her voice cracking. "We're done for. You have to help us." Emily nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Dad, we messed up. We're sorry." Their words dripped with need, but I heard the old venom beneath. "You've done nothing," Emily added, her eyes flickering. "But we need you now." I stood in the doorway, my face a mask. The room behind me smelled of fresh paint, the hardwood gleaming under a single lamp. A clock ticked on the wall, its rhythm steady. "Come in," I said, my tone flat. They shuffled inside, Linda's purse dangling, Emily's sneakers scuffing the floor. The space felt too clean for their chaos. I closed the door, the click sharp. Linda launched in, her hands wringing. "The debts are crushing us," she said, her voice rising. "The club's gone, my friends, gone. You're our only hope." Emily sniffled, her eyes on the floor. "No one talks to me anymore," she said. "I lost everything." Their apologies were thin, a performance to save themselves. I'd heard it before, their lies dressed in tears. I pulled my phone from my pocket, its cracked screen catching the light. "You think I've done nothing," I said, my voice low, deliberate. I tapped the screen, opened the wallet app, and held it up. Green text glowed, 59 BTC, $5.9 million. Their jaws dropped, Linda gasping, Emily sinking onto the couch. "I bought them in 2011, I said. $590. For you, for us. And you called me a failure." Linda's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide. You hid this?" she stammered. Emily stared, tears spilling, but she said nothing. I lowered the phone, my gaze hard. "You had your chance," I said. "Every day, you chose to tear me down. Now, you live with it." The clock ticked louder, filling the silence. Their faces were frozen, the truth a weight they couldn't lift. I turned, walking to the door. "Ed, wait!" Linda cried, falling to her knees, her hands clawing the air. Emily sobbed, gripping the couch. I didn't stop. "You're cruel!" Linda shouted, but her voice broke. I opened the door, the night air cool against my face. "No," I said, not looking back. "I'm fair." I stepped outside, the door shutting with a thud. My car waited, its engine a soft hum as I started it. The sunset burned orange, a fire across the sky. I drove, the phone on the seat beside me, its screen dark now. Their faces lingered in my mind, but not their pain. Only their shock, their realization. I'd shown them the truth, and it was enough. The terrace of my new house was my sanctuary, the morning air crisp with the scent of coffee. I sat at a glass table, my laptop open, documents spread before me. Another donation, 200,000 for a youth center, waited for my signature. The pen scratched softly, each stroke a step further from the past. Fairfield stretched beyond the railing, its roof's gold in the dawn. I was home, not just in this house, but in myself. Across town, Linda and Emily worked at a diner, their lives a stark contrast. The place was loud, reeking of fried potatoes and grease. Linda wiped tables, her apron stained, her movements sharp with resentment. "He did this to us," she muttered to a coworker, tossing a rag onto the counter. Her voice was bitter, but tired. Emily carried a tray, her step slow, her eyes downcast. "Mom, stop," she said, her voice flat. "We did this." The tray wobbled, plates clinking, and she steadied it, her phone silent in her pocket. I'd seen them once, from a distance, their faces drawn, their pride gone. They worked to survive, their status a memory. I felt no joy in their struggle, only balance. They'd mocked me for years, called me nothing while I paid their way, Emily's college, Linda's jewels. I'd given everything, and they'd spat it back. Now, they faced the world they'd built. My laptop pinged, a message from the charity, "Your gift will change lives." I smiled, the words warming me. The terrace was quiet, save for the rustle of leaves. I'd found purpose here, in giving, in building. The cold wallet, still locked in a safe, held millions, but it wasn't the money that freed me. It was the choice, to walk away, to live for myself. I stood, coffee mug in hand, and stepped to the railing. The sunset painted the sky, its colors soft, final. I thought of the old house, its creaks and shadows, and the years I'd spent there, shrinking under their words. I'd carried their weight too long, but no more. I gave them everything, I said, my voice a whisper. Now, I'm free. The mug warmed my hands, the sky deepening to purple. Fairfield was mine now, not as a conqueror, but as a man who'd found his place. Linda and Emily would keep going, their lives their own to mend or break. I didn't hate them. I didn't need to. I'd found something better, myself. The horizon glowed, and I knew I was home. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.